welcome to FinTalk Will Talk Show presented by Clickaway Creators. Today we have Mr. Anil Rander with us. Currently, he is working as a chief financial officer in Larsen and Toubro Infotech Limited. His current role is managing finance, legal, secretarial, merger and acquisition, internal audit, corporate services, and ESG. He is an integral part of the core team leading towards the growth journey, actively engaged in business strategy and transformation. He is also a qualified chartered accountant, cost accountant, and company secretary. Having 30 years of experience in the area of finance, legal, taxation, transfer pricing, merger and acquisition, project pricing, treasury, risk management, ERP implementation, profitability, management, and financial planning. He has worked across industries like information technology, financial services, telecom, and consulting, and also a few notable organizations being AF Ferguson Co, Hutchison Max Tech Mahindra. There's a lot more to talk about him, but now, without any further ado, let's dive in to know more about him. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thanks for giving this opportunity.
Thank you. The pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much for joining with us today. Let's begin with the first question here. To begin with, we would like to understand what motivated you to choose the financial sector as a domain of work and how has been your career span?
Okay, surely. I mean, there has been a lot of interest in finance, from the very beginning, and major reasons being that, it's a very, very challenging and the dynamic field functionally. Also, it's more of an horizontal which spans across industries, across globe, across various functions. You have opportunity to interact with various functions because finance is an area where possibly it's a source of information all across the organization, and you have to deal with various functional heads or various functional people, and you get to learn a lot, whether it's related to sales, production, IT, or HR, though being in finance. Also, ideally, this becomes quite important for an organization to make decisions based on what the numbers are, or what the facts are, or what are the kind of projections or budgets which are going to be there. And clearly it determines the value of the organization also, in terms of how do we drive it. And it becomes a key objectives for any of the organizations. So obviously, I mean, with this kind of enriched area and enriched field, it actually prompted me to, go in this functional field.
Thank you so much, Mr. Randir. Thank you for explaining that beautifully. And now moving forward with the second question here, we would like to know, what would you warn the people about finance in their personal lives?
Yeah, so I mean, this finance is something very important in our personal life when we take decisions, and many times it comes across when people either they want to build in terms of the future planning, retirement planning, or, maybe studies for their kids, or going in for holiday. You need to plan it out quite well, and unfortunately, we are not taught those kind of things in our school syllabus. I mean, normally what we think, what we learn is more from what we learn from our families, or our parents or friends. Ideally, my view would be that everybody should take lessons in personal finance. I'm not saying they should be an expert, but they should be good enough to understand what is good for them and what is not so good for them. Maybe in terms of the investment, savings, where they should put in. You have to be, actually be aware, about various instruments which are there in the market, what are good enough, what are not good enough. Clearly to understand, what is going to help them, because you should not be ending in a situation where your hard-earned money goes down the drain or somebody cheats you, and so you should be very well aware about where the market is moving and what can really help you in your personal life. And it is a good thing when you start it as a discipline, because that inculcates down within your families, friends, children. They also start learning the same. And it becomes very important as you move ahead in your age, so that the required corpus, what you need for any of your objectives in life, and that can actually enable to fulfill it.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for answering that question again. It was lovely to hear about your insights and what are your thoughts regarding that. And now I would really appreciate if you can let us know, as a professional, how would you deal with the challenges, and also how did you figure out the solutions to counter these challenges?
See, when in a professional life or any working life, I think we counter with day to day a lot of challenges. Sometimes these are strategic challenges, and normally, there are solutions to most of these challenges or alternates which are available for these challenges. I think the biggest thing which lies is to actually define what the challenge is. And normally, that is where the solution comes from. Many times the definition of that challenge is not very well known. You forget the different facets of those challenges which could be there, which could which where alternates emerge out of it. So my view would be, we should break down the challenges into smaller problems, smaller milestones, and then start looking at it. How do we want to achieve it? Many times, we start thinking too far on these challenges rather than having, thinking about these shorter issues and how to come overcome it. So ideally, if your challenges are broken into 3 or 4 parts, and not of normally a lot of times, what you achieve in part one may be relevant for part two or part three, and but many times people start thinking directly for part four, which may not even be relevant at that point of time. So idea is you should break down the challenges. You should have discussions with your teams in terms of how do we want to achieve. There could be a lot of solutions which could emerge out. Suppose there are 5 people in the team, you get maybe 3 or 4 solutions. Probably a mix and match can also become another one of the most desired solutions there, at that point of time. So the idea here would be to break down the problem, understand the problem, break it down, have deliberations with your team or any of your close colleagues, and then ideally design a solution there. And also look at alternates. When you're designing a solution for a challenge, you should always have your plan B to ready. If something doesn't work in plan A, what is a plan B or a plan C, which needs to be there? And ideally, that is the way we normally break down and have solutions for these.
Uh, the way you answer that question is so insightful. Like there was a lot of things that even I personally would like to jot down and personally would like to follow from now onwards. Thank you so much for sharing that. And moving forward, something that I would like to know from you, that how does technology impact every individual?
So I think technology has actually invaded into our lives. I mean, maybe what was not there 30 years back, today we start our morning with our mobile phones, and probably everything is there into that phone. Whether you're talking about your social life, or you're talking about your banking, or you're talking about your travel, you're talking about your hotel booking. Virtually everything is there in that mobile phone, which is there. I mean, the best use of that is how can you facilitate and make it more easier for you to help you, to navigate in terms of what objectives you want to achieve, or what is that you need to achieve with a minimal time spent on a certain transaction, I would say. For example, I mean, I'll give a simple example. Like once upon a time when we had to make a payment, we had to issue a check, write a check, deliver the check, and make sure that the check is, passed in our bank account so that it is cleared. I think things have now become very easy. Probably you make an RTGS, NEFT, or IMPS, and you do that. Similar is also related to your investments. You can make it at your fingertips. What is the kind of investments you can make? You can take insurances the way you want to. You can do redemptions for any kind of investments, or for any instruments you want to. So there are multiple things in which way the technology has helped. I mean, right from booking a rail ticket till the time related to your investments or reviewing of investments. The idea is you should use this technology to the maximum to make sure that you always are empowered with the kind of information. Not only is the information related to you, which is important, but also learn what is related to that field. Maybe it could be related to your investments, related to your insurance. I think the more you get into that learning, the more you are able to manage your area much better. And that's what actually helps you out. And I believe, I mean, it'll be incorrect if I say that nobody is using technology, or we should not, I mean, we should not be using technology. I mean, that will be incorrect. Ideally, however we can embrace the technology, yes, I would say to an extent which actually makes our way of life much simpler. I think we should use that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, last but not the least, I would really like to understand that taking relevance to the present range of developments, what would you think are the most important innovations that the industry requires to be done?
Yeah, so a lot of innovations, I would say, see, we actually, if you see in last 2 years, 3 years post-COVID, I think a lot has changed. We have got into an era where we have got into many things which are now touchless, like you go in an airport. Once upon a time, there was a transaction which used to go into an airport in terms of, you having your boarding pass, then, having to your security scan, and then going to the boarding the plane. Today, you don't require any of these. Probably if you have the boarding card in your phone, ideally it goes across, scans, you have a security check-in, move ahead. I mean, obviously we have moved to an era, as I said, which is becoming much and much more simpler. The transaction time has actually started reducing. The results are much more quicker. I believe with 5G coming in, we will see much more speeding things, much more faster. I believe a lot of innovations are going to come in. I believe as an industry, I think we need to improve a lot on infra, which should be coming in. If you're talking about, say, bullet trains, which will really help in terms of moving people, goods, logistics. Those are some things which we really need to improve on. We require a lot of improvement, maybe in the field of medical, where you have the right diagnosis with the right assessment of a certain person about his health, so that he can take the right approach or the right medicine and go to the right doctors there, where it can be done. Also, I think there is a lot of maybe an information or actions which are required in terms of the info security. How do you protect your own data? Because your data is prone to a lot of leakage, because you are accessing many instruments. Many service providers have access to your data. You should actually know your data is very important. Somebody hacks your data, I mean, he can make merry out of it. So how do you protect your data? How do you protect yourself from various scams which are there? So you really require a lot of actions here in the infosec areas also. So I would say these are few areas we really require, more. Also, I mean, last but not the least, more in terms of the education. I think our kids have to be updated with the latest, technology, where in their syllabus, whether it is in school or college. I mean, today, I mean, probably we are into 4G and all, but I think at times what is taught in college is quite old syllabus and all. So I really need to keep update the kids with the kind of happening which is there in the world, and that is really going to, because the moment they move out in the open world, ideally they learn a lot, rather than moving from an ancient era to the modern era.
Thank you, Mr. Rander. Thank you for um, like jotting down each and every detail and give us such a detailed information for all our viewers, for us to understand the concept a lot more better. And with that, we have come to the very end of this interview. Thank you so much for sharing such great insights with us, Mr. Rander, once again. And we look forward to having a chat with you in the future on some or the trending topics in finance world. And for our viewers, if you like this chat with Mr. Anil Rander, then please like and share this video, and also subscribe to Clickaway Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do. And we have more coming right for you all.